Would you sign up for a so-called fat camp to lose weight along with other people? Well, it's an idea that's gaining traction in the United States. Camp Roundup has opened in Ohio, and people say it makes them feel comfortable in a safe space with no judgment. With skyrocketing obesity rates in South Africa, would something like this actually work here? Registered dietitian and spokesperson for the Association for Dietetics in South Africa, that's Nathalie Mat, speaks to us now. And Nathalie, thank you so much for your time. Good morning to you. Now, women and men say they feel more comfortable in a space such as this because there's, less or even no judgment. Is this a factor that impacts people when it comes to weight loss?
Absolutely. So the factor that we're talking about is something called weight stigma. And weight stigma is discrimination on people based simply on their size, not knowing anything more about a person other than their weight and making assumptions about this person. And it is incredibly damaging to people to experience weight stigma, simply because it makes them feel like people are only looking at their weight and not acknowledging everything else that's going on. The place where it is most damaging is actually in the medical setting, because we see that people can have a sore knee, for example, or a sore hip, or maybe they have familial hypercholesterolemia, meaning it's high cholesterol from their family in their genes. And doctors consistently say to them, oh, if you lose some weight, it will sort it out. And that isn't always the answer. Sometimes they need to be given more care beyond just their weight.
Yeah. Is there something like this in South Africa? And if not, do you think it could work?
So summer camps are often aimed at children over the long summer that they have in America, and we don't have summer camps in the same sense. But Camp Roundup is actually more of a celebration of people being in bigger bodies and not necessarily being made to feel bad about it. So I think something where it is a more supportive space, where people are allowed to talk about their experiences and learn to move their bodies in a way that are comfortable for them, learn to eat in a way that nourishes them, that isn't about starving themselves. So we know from America, because there have been fat camps where children are put on terrible diets and are taught to lose weight, not always in safe ways. We know that those fat camps actually create eating disorders and disordered body image and bad relationships with body. So I would not encourage someone to go to a fat camp, because my fear is it would encourage people to have a bad relationship with food or an imbalanced relationship with food. And we really want to support people to have a healthy, long-term relationship with food that is sustainable, a relationship with their body that feels good, and they're not at war with themselves. So if a camp like Roundup came to South Africa, I think it would be wonderful, because it's much more supportive and kind and gentle, instead of making it just about numbers and how many calories you're eating.
Right. And that brings me to my next question. I mean, as a dietitian, is it generally okay to use the F word, the fat word?
Fat has come back into favor. So fat is not used as an insult. A person who has fat on their body, and there are many people living in big bodies who are now saying fat is a great word to use. I am fat, I have fat. Whereas the word obesity is a word we don't really like. And there is one phrase in particular that dietitians hate, and that is the war on obesity, because what it says is we are at war with people in bigger bodies. And what do you think that's going to do to a person who lives in a bigger body? It's going to make them feel bad. It's going to make them want to cope with these negative feelings and quite possibly comfort eat. So I don't like the word obesity. I hate the phrase, the war on obesity. I think we should learn to tolerate bodies in all different shapes and sizes and support everyone to live a healthy life where they move, where they eat well, where they sleep, where they manage their stress and live in healthier bodies.
Yeah, and just briefly, if I may, Nathalie, I mean, the truth is South Africa does have a weight problem, right? It's estimated that 60% of women and 31% of men in South Africa are overweight. How do we then confront this, do you think?
Mm. So we always think about weight as being just calories in versus calories out, and we are much more complicated than that. Other factors that impact our weight are our medical treatment, whether or not we're on certain medications. It is what we're eating, it's how much exercise we're doing, but it's also the social determinants of health. Do I have access to adequate food? Do I have access to healthcare when I need it? We also often ignore the impact of sleep. Sleeping enough makes a huge difference to your health overall. And so it's not just calories in versus calories out. And there's a lot that needs to be done at a systemic level in terms of making South Africa easier to walk in, making it safer for people to exercise where they live, and increasing things like parks and gyms where you can exercise. It's not something that the individual does on their own. We need to create a supportive environment for everyone in South Africa to live healthily.
Well, I appreciate you speaking to us about this. Registered dietitian Nathalie Mat, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.